Welcome to today's Sunday afternoon show with me, Lucy Marskell. I hope you're having a lovely sunny day today. I've got a very special guest with me, or should I say, two special guests. I have got Jess Del Rio and Dan Buchanan from an indie rock band called The Race. So, welcome to you guys. How are you doing?
We're good. Thank you so much for having us.
Awesome. Well, it's lovely to meet you. I know I've been reading reviews that your music is a bit like Arcade Fire and U2 mixed together, but how would you guys describe the kind of music that you make?
Do you know, I'm actually quite looking forward to now we're back together and we're making music and people are hearing it again. I'm quite looking forward to people telling us what they think it's like because you're going to get a bit lost in the writing and the mixing. So yeah, feel free to answers on a postcard.
I've always said like boy girl indie guitar music. So Jess sings and I sing, and there's guitars and the drum kit. So
Oh, I
yeah, but
love that.
yeah, we're just trying to write good songs, and then we obviously sound like we sound because of the instruments that we play and the way we play them.
Awesome. And again, there's two of you in the studio today, but obviously there's I think what five or six of you guys.
Yeah, there's five of us in the band. Yeah.
Awesome. I love that. Well, I know that with the race, there's actually a massive history of it because I think you started in 2004. Could you tell us a bit more about the history of the band?
Yeah, so we've kind of played together since we were teenagers, probably in like various formats, and people have come and gone. We've gone through like we started probably for at church, like playing at church, and then we just sort of taken it forward from there, really. So yeah, we've been through kind of different names, different members, but in 2004 the race began. So yeah, we just started like playing locally, like around where we live in Reading, and then yeah, things started to take off a little bit. We got some chances to record, and some people heard it and gave us some really amazing opportunities to do some very very cool kind of once in a lifetime things. Um, yeah, so we recorded two albums on a label, kind of toured in Europe and UK, um, and then yeah, we ended up finishing about 2009.
When we were kind of late 20s and needing to do some other stuff as well. So we then had some children, uh, did some work, some grown up
Finally.
stuff. I think for us, having like Jess mentioned, we grew up in church, like doing worship stuff and playing other people's songs, which was really good. But we wanted to play stuff outside of church for people that weren't sitting in church. So that was always kind of our hope to write songs that God could use through our music. And so we were really intentional about just being open to whatever that could be and whoever it was with. We used to even go into like our local prison, young offenders prison, and spend time doing something called Befrienders, which is like a mentoring thing. And that was really inspiring. So we kind of took part-time jobs and it ended up being about 5 years, pretty much full-time, where we'd kind of work morning jobs, rehearse in the afternoon or travel to gigs and we'll do other stuff and then just kind of went with where it went. And it was really cool.
Wow, that's such an amazing opportunity that you got to play to people in prison. That's a very unique,
Yeah, that,
way
that
to
was
do
less,
that.
yeah, it was a great opportunity actually. I think to have that time to be able to do that was really good. Did we do a gig in Pentonville prison or did we just
We
go there?
did. Oh, I don't remember. We definitely
Yeah,
went there.
we were really up for that kind of stuff. But yeah, we went all over and did all sorts of like probably some really random things as well, and then some really big things. So we were just really open and quite soft and just went with the flow, which was great.
I love that. I would never expect of you to say that you'd been, performing in Pentonville Prison. That's a quite unique opportunity for a gig, but I can imagine they absolutely loved it. And I'm also interested to know a bit about your name, The Race, because I kind of think of like the marathons, I kind of think of life as a race, but what's the story behind that?
Yeah, for me, it's always been more the race marked out for us. So more, I think I had sleep, I had a dream, and I woke up, and in the dream we'd gone to see a band called The Race. And at the time, we were thinking about band names. So yeah, probably more that than the athletic type of race. Um, in hindsight now, at that period, there were lots of the bands, the Yeah Yeahs, the Strokes, the all sorts of. So it's a bit of its time. I don't know if we'd call ourselves the race now. We did think about renaming ourselves, um, but there's lots of old stuff that we've done that we want people to find. So we've just stuck with it. Um, but even if you think about Radiohead, that's a strange name, isn't it, for a band?
It is
Coldplay. So bands, when
Coldplay.
you break names down, they all sound a bit weird, but yeah, that's basically what it means to me.
That's incredible that you had an actual dream and that's now, the name.
Yeah.
Now, you're actually back after, I believe, a 16-year break. Why did you get back into making music? And is the music kind of different at all?
was all Dan's fault. So Dan has this where once a year he'll ring us up and be like, guys, we've been offered a gig at the Dog and Duck for a £5 each. And we all laugh at him. And then this time he rang up.
That's not a joke. That's what happens.
That is literally, that's a tradition.
Yeah.
And so, this time he rang up and he was obviously more serious. For me, I've been out, I have 3 kids and they really, really love listening to the old music. And I've been driving around with my younger daughter, to buy some fireworks. It was like November 2024. And I've been saying to her, if someone asked us again to get together to do like a one-off gig, I think I'd say, I'd quite enjoy it. And then literally that day, Dan rang up and said, do you guys want to start writing some music together again? And so for me, it was like I do. I'd love to do that. I think probably we all have our own different stories about.
Yeah. I had a thing, we were going to church on a Sunday afternoon, and this was 2 weeks before this happened, and we were in TK Maxx, because that's what you do when you live go to a church or town centre, and they had like journals and notebooks and all that kind of bit, and I just felt like, maybe I should buy a notebook, because I feel like I might need to do some more journaling and some more writing. So I did, because I used to journal all the time and write all the time, and then for years with children and things didn't do any of it, and so I kind of wrote in it that night, I'm writing this because I'm wondering whether there's something that's going to come up. And then within a few days, so I work in like a physiotherapy clinic, I was doing an interview actually for another podcast about that clinic, and the chap asked me what I did after university, meaning professionally, right? And in my head I thought, do I bother telling him, like, this is completely unrelated? But I said, do you know what, I was in a band actually for 5 years. Told him the name of the band, carried on with the interview. He emailed me back later that afternoon and said, I've just checked out your Wikipedia page, it sounds really interesting. So I was like, there's a Wikipedia page for the race? That's bizarre. Because we were kind of pre-internet. We were MySpace. Do you know what I mean? And so I looked it up and it said the race, all that stuff about us, 2004 to present. And I'd never considered that we were to present. I thought we finished in 2009. But yet, like Jess said, we were all still friends and living in this area. So I rang Gray, who's our bass player and does all the production, and said, Gray, maybe we should finish those old demos off for a bit of fun. And then we thought we should bring the others too and see if they want to do it. And within 4 days, we'd all met up at Gray's house and we'd all cleared our diaries and we were there. And we had this awkward sitting in the kitchen, like, do you want a cup of tea? Like, what do we do? Because we've hung out socially, but not. And it's like, did we listen to some music? Like, but from there, it kind of just started pouring out really. And that was like nearly 2 years ago now, in November, I think. And we've just been really gentle with it and just read some stuff and recorded some stuff. And I guess the reason we're talking to you is because we're releasing our second song right as this show is going out, which is really exciting. And we've got an EP coming out later in the year. So yeah, it's cool. It's really cool.
It is really cool, and I'm sure the music has, the similar flair to what you've done before, but obviously some newness as well. So that leads me on to actually my next question. With Family EP being released in October, D.U.V. is your latest single. I think it just got released a few days ago. And could you tell us more about what it's about?
So D.U.V. So the title is it was the working title and it never got renamed. So it was named for Gray's older daughter doing her Silver Award. And true to our form, we never renamed it. And it is about, you kind of hear it in the lyrics, it's about kind of going through, like, seeing older people go through life, seeing God's faithfulness to them as they get old, and kind of knowing God's hand in all stages of our lives. And it's pulling on Ezekiel, I think, for quite a lot of the kind of imagery in the choruses and in the bridge. So listen out for that.
Lots of Psalms as well in there as well. I felt recently I've just been writing bits from the Bible.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. So it's funny. So it's like a smorgasbord of that, like God's faithfulness and that journey, and this, like Jess says, the seasons. And we've got people in our lives, like Jess's dad, who's in the video actually, who are really beautiful examples of steadfastness through all sorts of stages, and just seeing as they, particularly around their Christian faith. So we wanted to have a nod to that. I played it in church about a year ago when I was doing a talk, and I actually said because there's a couple in our church that I had in mind when I wrote the lyrics for the chorus, and they didn't know, so that was quite sweet. And they had this little song, and I said it was inspired by them. Yeah, it's good. It's really cool.
Wow, I love the background, guys. And that makes me want to watch the music video, obviously, when it's released
Yeah, yeah.
now, which it sounds very exciting, very personal. I like the fact that with your music, it is, a ode to, your kids, but also, what you
Mhm.
guys value in life. So just to say to people who are international, because we do have international listeners, DOV is short for Duke of Edinburgh Award. And I think it's at school. I remember back in the day, my friends doing it. They used to go like hiking and doing lots of different challenges, and then they get this award. So that's really good. Well, we're going to be playing DOV now. This is DOV by The Race. Welcome back to the Sunday afternoon show. We're having a great time today talking to Jess and Dan about their band, The Race. And they've got some new music out, and that's what we love talking about here on Konnect Radio. Well, guys, it'd be really good to know more about your personal musical influences. And also, I'm really interested to know if there are any bands that you haven't toured with yet that you'd like to.
My first ever gig was in Loddon Valley Leisure Centre in Reading, and we saw Delirious play in about 97. And it was like when they were kind of blowing up, and I'd never been to anything with, it was probably only about 400 people, maybe 500, but I thought it was incredible and I loved it. And so growing up as a young Christian chap, I loved them. And then as years have gone on, kind of got into more other stuff, like Jeff Buckley. Like, I love his vocals. I love The Cure. At the moment, I love a guy called Jacob Allon, who's got a beautiful voice. And often it's been inspired by kind of Jules Holland type programs where they have eclectic acts on. You kind of see little bits of different types of music, but that's probably where I come from.
I think I'm thinking about my sixth form. When I was in sixth form, like indie music became a really big thing for me. Like bands like Suede were really big then. Me and my friends went up to London. I think it was the Blue Tones or Shed 7. I definitely saw both of those. Can't remember which venues, but I think it was the Blue Tones in London we went to see, and it was all kind of that kind of indie, kind of I don't know, the peak probably of indie music.
And then we played with Blue Tones, right?
We did. We played with Blue Tones in Glasgow, and I went and told them that they were my first big gig and made them feel
Wow.
really old.
Love that.
Yeah. So yeah, I quite like kind of a bit heavier, kind of soundscapey kind of music. I think that's probably where I've come from. I mean, at the moment, I have two 7-year-olds, so I mainly get to listen to K-pop, which is
K-pop.
but
Love that. You
here
got
we are.
BTS on all day, but you're like, oh, I want to listen to Suede.
I know
That
I
makes
have to go
sense.
for walks with headphones on to kind of readjust.
Yeah. We used to love a band called Radiohead as well, and bands like Supergrass. So where we live in the Thames Valley, we hadn't realised, but there was this thing called the Thames Valley Sound, which had lots of delay guitars. So when we first started playing gigs in the Reading area, people kept coming up and saying, "You sound like these bands that we'd never heard of." And then one day, through our label, the managers of Radiohead came to a small gig in Reading to see us play. And they really liked it. And they said, "Oh, you remind us of early Radiohead, like that kind of unhinged, chaotic, kind of passionate sound." And they said, "Obviously, we can't manage you because Radiohead was huge at the time, but we'd love to support you with a studio and some of the people in the industry that we know." So we ended up recording our first album in their studios, fairly close to Abingdon, where they're based. And it was a residential studio, and we couldn't believe our luck, really, like basically having their producer work with us. And that was really, really great. And lots of things kind of came out of those, like just people helping us. And we'd say, like, absolutely, that it was God kind of just gently molding and directing us. But we never really went looking for it in the Christian scene because it sounds a bit harsh, but I'm a bit allergic to that stuff because I just feel
That makes sense. Don't worry.
hard not to get. Yeah, it can be quite performative, and
Yes.
we love church and we love being Christians, and for us it's about being really, I hate the word authentic because it's so overused, but just expressing how we are and what we're going through and what's inside of us. And it's so much easier when you're outside of the church doing that because you can just trust God to kind of lead you. So we used to we pray every single rehearsal and every single gig and every single thing we did that God would just use us and that would be open to what God was doing through us. And off the back of that, we ended up, like you said, there's some bands we wanted to play with. We played with bands like the Fun Loving Criminals in Barcelona,
So
which was
cool.
fun. The Zutons in Amsterdam. Did you play the Zutons? Yeah. Which is crazy. Like, we're second on the bill on like Dutch
Wow.
TV, and like this amazing venue. Yeah, like Supergrass, like all sorts of interesting bands that we grew up like looking at, and we were literally in the dressing room next door praying for them through the wall, and like that was really, really cool. And I think there were probably lots of seeds in that time that were sown that we'll never know about, whether what happened, but it felt like I don't think we could have done it any better, if that's a way of putting it. Do you know what I mean? It felt really.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good, way to start, isn't it? If you're on the second on the bill with the Zutons, I always think of Valerie, such a great song,
Yeah,
that they wrote. The Amy Winehouse said that. But wow, isn't that amazing that God put you there and actually you were planting seeds just in a natural way, like you said, it wasn't forced. It probably just brought up your
yeah.
faith and just prayed, and that would have been made massive impact
We
on
always
them.
wondered
So
why people
amazing.
liked our music, but I guess it was just something about, well, hopefully the Holy Spirit just like kind of molding it and guiding it. But yeah, and we're still like that today, to be honest. That's exactly how we feel about the music we're making now. We just want to be like really honest with where we're at. Not really, we're not particularly evangelical. Like we're just ourselves. And for me, it's about being a good witness and just being open with people and being open to what God wants to do through you, really. So.
Totally. And I also agree with you that even though like we're obviously a radio station that plays both mainstream and Christian music because we both love it, it's, what I would say sacred and secular doesn't really exist because music is kind of a gift, isn't it? No matter what genre you play and, no matter what the subjects. But I think it's really great that, like you said, you're speaking out of the overflow of your heart and like you're talking about the Psalms. They have so many different moods and seasons in it. Some people are really sad in the Psalms, some people are
Yeah.
angry, some people are questioning, some people are contemplative or happy. And I think that's really great, that authenticity that you talk about, because we definitely need more of that in the church and we need more of that on the airwaves. Well, my next question before we go into the song is actually about The Best Is Yet to Come, which I think it was your first single off the actual EP. So tell us more about The Best Is Yet to Come.
Your turn.
So it's a song about the Israelites going through the Exodus, and how they can be like that in life too. We can go through real struggle. So it's kind of singing over our friends and our family and the people we know, and just saying, God knows the plans He has for us. The stuff from Jeremiah, and God is always with His people. So it's pretty. If you listen to the words, that's basically what it's about. And this isn't it. So like you've not arrived. This isn't the promised land. Like what you're going through isn't it. Like there's more to come, and it's that kind of hope. And I guess a lot of that I'm really passionate about people that aren't in churches anymore, that maybe grew up in the church with us, who have really struggled, and as they've kind of got older, they've struggled to kind of, I don't know, it all gets confusing, doesn't it, for some people? And I've always felt like we're called to those people. So when I was baptized, someone talked about how God wanted to use me to reconcile people back to Him, and that's always been my passion, to like be really open to that. And through my work as well, I meet loads of people that have grown up in Christian contexts, and I want to, just show God's love to them, really. And I know it's complicated, and I'm not a counselor or a therapist, so I don't have any answers. But yeah, that song's really for those people.
Wonderful. I love the story behind that. And I think it's amazing to hear about how you have that, real calling on your life, because it is about reconciliation of the day. And a lot of people have had really bad experiences with the church or Christianity. So important to be a great witness, which you guys are. So thank you so much for sharing about that. This is The Best Is Yet to Come by The Race, and we'll be back after this. Welcome back to the Sunday afternoon show with me, Lucy Marskell. You might have heard of this band, The Race, because they have been on BBC Radio 1 and also XFN and many other different stations. So it's such a privilege to have them here on Konnect Radio for the first time. Well, I want to really talk a little bit more about your faith, because you guys are quite open about it in a great way. Could you tell us more about the Christian language in your music? Because I do hear, like you said, a bit of the Psalms.
Yeah, I guess we write songs about things that we care about. And so as a Christian, that's just going to flow out, isn't it? I really care about lyrics when I listen to music, and I want them to speak. So we used to use the phrase catchy crap. So you can like write like cheesy lyrics, and that, like K-pop possibly. I don't know. I don't listen to K-pop, and that's cool.
Lucky
And that
you.
can be quite saccharine, quite juicy. But I've always loved solid lyrics and stuff that speaks. And I think if it's a way of communicating our faith, then we want to use those lyrics and take them really seriously. So yeah, you probably do. If you kind of study the words or listen carefully, you'll hear all sorts of references and things. And I guess we want to be prophetic in what we're writing about and singing about. And a lot of it is actually from the Bible too. So I'll kind of be sat reflecting on a theme or a thing. So we're writing a song at the moment, and the first line is, "Could Jesus sit here in this church?" Which is quite fun,
Really?
isn't it? I
That's
know,
a very
yeah.
bold thing to say on an
I
album.
know,
Wow.
it's a strong thing to say, isn't it? But that's what I'm reflecting on, and it's a reflection on that theme. And so I guess, yeah, each song has a different purpose and different meaning. A lot of it is quite personal and like reflecting on our own lives and people that we're writing about. I've always wanted to kind of, it's the prophetic thing, isn't it, of trying to write songs for people. So there's another song which is just really simple, which is like, let this be the one. If a song could simply show you that I love your bones, let this be the one. And that's a song about God's love. And I just trying to get that across to a close friend of mine's wife who's really struggling with depression, right? So it's just trying to write lyrics that will hopefully connect with people where they're at. And I'm sure not every lyric connects with everybody, but yeah, it's a real privilege to try and work on lyrics anyway. So yeah.
And I
That's
love
really
that
beautiful.
you can kind of speak this stuff over people, and maybe they're not even aware that actually that's God's word to them. But like God's word doesn't come back void. So, you know, we kind of trust that he will use that and do what he wants to do with it.
That's
And
awesome, Jess.
we're really sensitive to like people that aren't Christians or are struggling with their faith too. So like that's why we feel probably more comfortable sometimes just being outside of church and trying to just be normal and relate to people with where we're coming from. So yeah, like I said earlier, like that's our passion really, to reach the people that are maybe struggling a bit more.
I
Because
love
there's
that.
there's some great worship music already that people can enjoy in the church, but maybe we're more Monday morning than Sunday morning.
Monday morning and Sunday morning. I like how you described your music. And when I listened to it the first time, I would listen to it and wouldn't know that it was Christian. Like, if that makes sense, of like you guys are Christians, because that's the whole debate about, you know, you Christian music or music Christian. It doesn't really matter because it's all about the heart behind what you're doing. And I think that's amazing to hear that you're trying to encourage, you know, people that you know, but also you can relate to people maybe who struggle with church. And that's such a beautiful thing. Well, guys, I actually have another question for you. And that is, have you got any stories of how God has impacted people through your music? I don't know if that's something tangible you can see, obviously in arenas or people you hear about, but have you seen any positive impact through it?
I really hope so. I haven't got anything particular that comes to mind, but I can really remember times like praying before we went on, like just really feeling God asking us to like name a number, like how many things do you want me to do tonight? What do you want me to be doing in people's hearts while you're playing? So yeah, I think that's my real trust, is that God is at work through that. And I'm sure Dan's going to tell some stories now.
No, do you know what? I'm not. Yeah, I'm struggling too. I guess the other thing is just like miracles and stuff happening when we were struggling at various places with things breaking or falling apart. We never missed a gig. How many gigs did we play?
Oh, about 400.
So like hundreds of gigs and all sorts of situations. But there was always a way through whatever we were going through. So that's really cool. It is a real privilege to be like in a band of brothers and sister, and to kind of journey together, like real privilege. And we probably didn't realize that at the time, and we probably realize that more now. And I guess some of the songs, so this is changing the subject from your question, I'm sorry, but we've now got children, right? And so we have like deep longings for our kids to have faith and to like understand. And so that's why we've written this thing called the Family EP, because some of those songs are about members of our family and what we hope for them.
Wonderful.
Again, prophetically, and like they'll maybe discover those songs in the future too. So, but yeah, that's probably about right, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I know you got rave reviews from Hugh Stevens when he was at Radio 1. So thinking about all the actual just general mainstream stations, I love what you do. So it's really good to hear that your music's so uplifting and encouraging at the same time. So what would your advice be, guys, to, let's say we've got some bands or budding musicians listening in. What would your advice be to them starting out?
I think practice a lot, play a lot together, get really tight. We were primarily like before we were a live band, we'd be together every day playing. I think being really honest with each other and really open with each other, and keeping those real short accounts with each other, having like a real firm friendship at the base of it all. And I think probably that's part of why people like us and like us playing live, is because we're clearly having a good time and we enjoy each other.
Yeah.
I think just make sure your music's really good. Ask people really honestly for their opinions. Don't just listen to people who are going to say brilliant. Ask people who you trust for feedback, and make sure you got a good product before you go out, I guess, is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, and go and listen to loads of bands as well and get loads of ideas. I still don't think we've written a perfect song yet, or like, do you know what I mean? So you're kind of always looking for the next song or the next thing, which is quite exciting. And I was going to say, like Jess said about being friends, most of the time you're not actually playing, you're just hanging out. And lots of bands we've seen come and go, and they just didn't get on, or they didn't hang out, they didn't invest in those relationships. So that's important. And then I guess like for bands that are Christians, maybe in churches or whatever, just keep yourself in order, like check yourself, and don't get carried away by the fact that there's 100 people in their church, because they'd have been there anyway. So like I don't know what I mean by that, but yeah, just don't take yourself too seriously. just stay humble and crack on. Really.
We had some advice early on about the dog wagging the tail and not being the other way around, that the tail's wagging the dog. You know, you're there to do a thing, the thing's not there to do you.
Wow, that's a really good perspective, because I think, especially within the music industry, ego can be such a big thing, especially I know with historical indie rock brothers and stuff like that. So that's amazing advice, guys, and I hope everyone listening in who's a budding musician will take that on board. And that's related to my next question. What do you wish you guys had known sooner? See you later, Jess. Jess has to go get a meeting, guys. So if you just hear Dan's voice, it's not personal.
Right.
She is going to be back. So Dan, my question for you is this: what do you wish you had known sooner as a band, but also as a musician yourself, before you obviously did the music, but also just generally in the music industry?
I don't know, you kind of learn as you go. So there's stuff we don't know now that we'll know in 6 months' time. Do you know what I mean? So we're rediscovering how the modern music thing works. So we were like, you'd have a radio plugger, a press agent, they'd get you in all the newspapers and the radio stations, and whereas now it's like this crazy algorithm thing and bizarre. Do you know what I mean? So like there's always stuff you don't know. I think we were lucky that we met someone that opened it all up for us, and that was probably, you know, God's gift to us, really, who liked our music. So I don't know how to answer that question, really. What do I wish we knew? I think it is definitely all about the songs. You have to have some good music, like Jess was saying, like a good thing or a good piece of art or whatever you're trying to work on. You can't polish a turd, so like it's got to be good. So get good. Like I'm doing singing lessons now because I need to be ready for the gigs that we're going to do in the autumn. Do you know what I mean? And I've not, my voice hasn't been used in that way for many years. So so really hone your craft. So if you're a drummer, like do drumming lessons every week, like get good at drumming and whatever it might be. That's important. I think listen to loads of stuff outside of what you play as well. So like different types of music would be good. Ask your friends to give, like, you know, to be critical friends. So we're lucky that we've got friends that were in really big bands who can listen to our music and say, yeah, that's good, but I'm not sure about that bit. And that's really helpful. They're not just going to flatter us, but they'll be quite constructive with their feedback.
I think that's such good advice, and it's so funny, that phrase. I haven't heard that in a while, of like, you don't want to polish a turd, aka it needs to be good and not just be really awful. And yeah, I think it's true, because I think often we can have friends or family that just want to be nice, go, yeah, it's all good, it's the best song I've ever heard. But actually, if it's not very good, it needs to improve. You need that feedback, because it will come out on the stadium, won't it, when you do the tour? Now, actually talking about the tour, sorry, carry on. What are you going to say, Dan?
So vocals in particular are really important. So you have to have a good vocal. Like if the vocal's not right, it's a problem. So that's something we work really hard on, or trying to get better at as well, because that's the bit that people are kind of hanging on.
They are, definitely. The vocal is so important in the recording, in the studio, but also, live in the stadium. Now, Dan, you actually just mentioned that you're going to go on tour this autumn. Tell us more about what's coming up.
Yeah, so we're not going on tour, but we are going to play some dates. So there's a slight difference because we have young children. But we're going to be playing a festival in Reading, in the Abbey, which is 900 years old. So the church I go to was the church from the Abbey, actually, which is 900 years old too. And it's really amazing that after all these years, we're going pretty much playing on the same site, but outside in this like small festival for about 2,000 people in September, I think it is, which is really exciting. And it's really lovely because they kind of heard that we were back doing some stuff, and they basically offered us a main stage like slot. So we're now rehearsing. So at James and Jess's house now, we have all the stuff set up, and we're trying to remember how to play some of the old songs, like learn to play the new songs and how we're going to arrange them. And then we'll probably do an EP launch type thing. But these days it's really about convenience and playing the right venue to the right amount of people to make it kind of work. Whereas in the old days we just did volume of gigs, which is
so it's more quality than quantity, I guess.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, and also like we're really considering families and children and whether they can come too, because we want to be really accessible. We were like the worst gig we ever played was 5 people in Hastings.
5 people.
That was tough. And like our manager said at the time, you don't have to play the gig if you don't want to, but we did. So we've been through all sorts of iterations of playing live, but no, we're really excited. So that will happen in September. Then the plan is to record a second EP, which might be called the Friends EP. I'm not sure yet.
That's exciting. So you have family and then you have friends, maybe.
Exactly. And then they'll come together, and we'll probably release songs from spring next year, a bit like we're doing now, like 3 releases and then an EP. And then we'll probably put some bits together and make a third album. But the lovely thing about music and creativity is you can just do whatever you want. So there's no pressure. Like we all have families and other things that we're doing. So we just go with the flow, and we really enjoy, like, this is probably this bit is the hard bit, actually, the promo bit. The fun bit is the writing and the recording and the playing.
What do you find hard about the promo bit?
I mean, I love chatting to you, but you have to think about, like, you have to be strategic about making sure that people are listening to your stuff. So you can't just, and this is the thing for new bands, you can't just put something out there and expect everyone to find it. Nobody cares. So you have to be strategic, and like Jess works really hard at that stuff. And we're going to talk to some press people soon, and like, there's a whole load of stuff that goes on behind the scenes, with a band to get your music out there in the first place. Whereas in the old days, you just did hundreds of gigs, had a mailing list, built it up that way, paid a radio plugger, got on the radio, and it was kind of, that's how it worked.
True. Things have changed so much. And like you said before earlier, that actually the algorithms like Spotify and YouTube and all that, it's thinking about, where it's distributed. And like you said, there's a lot of, hunger for indie bands that are not mainly, on a huge record label. And I think that's what's unique about you.
Yeah, and I'd say there's also a lot of slop as well. So there's loads of data, like loads of music out there. So how are people going to find that? So again, as Christians, it's lovely that we can pray about it and say, God, like, will you use it? I think, and we believe that that's what will happen, and that seems to have always happened for us, which is great. But it's just really interesting. And then, so the idea is that essentially every summer we'll do festivals and we'll play. So like from June, July, we'll be ready to go, and we'll do a series of dates that our kids can come to, and maybe on our own. And as the kids get older, we'll be more free to do more stuff. But yeah, it's fun. It's really nice. Like Jess would say if she was here now, it's really nice to model to your kids. Like, so Jess is a mum to them, but to me, she's like, she's a guitar hero. Do you know what I mean? Like, and she's in a rock band. So like, so it's nice for her daughters to see that side of her, which they've not seen before, which is really cool.
It is. And also, it's so exciting the fact that even though it's not technically a tour, because you obviously got to stay home and look after kids and look after your family, which is great because you're practicing what you preach with the name of the EP. I think it's exciting that you're going to be on tour again, technically on road. I'm going to call it that. And are there any other particular places that you're going to announce soon? Like, obviously, Reading's one, but is there anyone else in the UK
that's
that
the
you're going to
main
be?
one. Yeah, I don't know. We're still working on the main launch thing. I'd imagine it'll be within an hour of Reading, because that's probably where still a lot of our people are based in South of England, I'd imagine. But we won't we won't. So in the old days, you'd basically get a phone call and say, "Can you go on tour with Supergrass? They're doing these 5 dates. Da, 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 can you do that?" And you'd say yes, and then off you go, because you're all committed and you're single, or you've got children. Whereas these days, that's not going to happen. So we're just in a different place in our lives. But there's so many festivals now that we'll probably be looking to play quite a few next summer.
Oh, exciting!
The short-term goal is like have 30 minutes ready to play, and then we'll add to that, and then we'll kind of be good to go next year, which would be great.
That's awesome. Well, thanks so much for sharing that, Dan. We're going to come back after the break and we're going to be asking Dan all about the different bands he's talked to, because I want to be a bit nosy and ask what they were like, because we always hear things, on NME and online, and it'd be great to hear what their music is like and touring with them. So stay tuned to Konnect Radio. Welcome back to the Sunday afternoon show on this very sunny day for Konnect Radio. My name's Lucy Marskell, and I'm joined by Dan Buchanan from the Race Band, credible indie rock band that have toured worldwide with some very well-known other indie bands. So that's what I want to talk about. That's probably my number one question, Dan. You've toured with a lot of famous bands like Pete Doherty from Baby Shambles and the Zutons, etc. Tell us more about who you've toured with and what they were really like.
Yeah, it's funny. It's weird because it would often be certain dates for certain runs of dates. So we had a booking agent who were Oasis's booking agent, so really big. And so we were a small band from Reading, and then we were being invited to go on tour with some bigger bands, like you say.
Amazing.
So we played with like Fun Loving Criminals in Barcelona, the Zutons in Holland, Supergrass around the UK, a band from Reading called Morning Runner, who were good friends of ours, who we grew up with, Cooper Temple Claws, and then lots of kind of major label bands that were trying to break through, where you'd essentially be invited as the tour support, so you'd be the second on to them. So it'd be funny because they'd be on their tour buses and staying in nice hotels, and we'd be surviving off £50 a night.
Really?
Yeah.
Not a rider then.
You get a rider, yeah, and that'd be you'd use the water and have as much as you could, but it kind of So we were quite innovative. We had someone that liked us, was a buyer for Primark. So he would give us loads of Primark clothes and t-shirts, and then we'd rebadge them with race badges, and then we'd sell them for like £10 to £15. And we'd end up outselling some of these bands because we had a rail of really interesting clothes and singles.
Merch.
So we'd essentially sell merch to get us around the UK. And that was really fun. I think the main thing I'd say about playing with bigger bands is it's not like you think. So you don't sit in the dressing room, play cards together. You have different schedules. So they'll be sound checking at a certain time and you'll get your food, and then they clear off. and they often won't come back till they're just before they're due to come on. So
Okay.
often they won't see you play either. So you'll kind of miss each other, and then you'll pack out and you'll be on the way to the next place. So it's not, yeah, as you might imagine it. So it's good, and we had some nice times with those people, but we didn't necessarily become best friends off the back of it.
It's not Spinal Tap or anything, right? Not like the movie.
No, but we have lots of Spinal Tap references, and that's kind of the kind of dark sense of humor that we all find really funny. We played with the Twang once. They were like a big band from Birmingham at the time.
Yeah, they were big
And
back in the day. I remember that.
they were big, and like they were on before us, and we thought that was odd. And it was on this boat called Thekla in Bristol, and they basically came on, used all our kit, smashed it all up, had all the people reviewing them, and then just disappeared. And then all our kit was broken, and everyone had gone.
Oh no,
So,
proper rock
so
stars.
that kind of thing happens too. And I remember Emily Evis was at that gig, and she was going to book them for Glastonbury, and I stupidly, when you see someone you recognise, but you
Yeah.
forget where you recognise them from. So I
Oh
went up to her
no.
sound check and I said, have we met before? And she said, no. I said, are you sure? Like, you seem really familiar. And it was only after that I realised, of course, I recognised her because she was Emily Evis. But yeah, all sorts of fun things. I remember we played with a band. The Arctic Monkeys were in our dressing room. So we played in Sheffield,
No
a band called the Keep
way.
Temple Claws. And the Arctic Monkeys, came off stage, and the Arctic Monkeys were just chatting to the Keep Temple Claws in the dressing room. And that was crazy. So yeah, I think the main thing when you play with other bands is to not get in their way or to be too annoying. So being really respectful, giving them loads of distance, trying to be as easy as possible so that you'll be invited back or do more with them in the future. So yeah, it was really fun. And for us as a Christian band, we felt like we're a band of Christians. We're there to get alongside people and to love them and support them and to pray for them and all those things for that period that we were with them physically, geographically. So yeah, it's cool.
Wow, I think it's really exciting to hear all the people that you got to meet. Emily Evis is such a legend with Michael, isn't she? So I can't believe that. I'd be really kicking myself as well if I realised who she was with Glastonbury. And again, amazing that people at Glastonbury now, and you never know what the lineup is every year. So that's really cool to hear. I love that. So I was going to ask you actually, is there any particular bands? I think I might have asked you this a little bit before, but want to go into depth. Are there any particular bands that you would love to either support or to support you, like on your new Not
Wow.
Tour?
I don't know, just some big old bands that we grew up loving, I guess, like The Cure would be amazing, wouldn't it? Anyone really, like we're quite chilled. There's lots of bands there's a place near Reading called Waiting House, and they've just had Pixies playing. We used to love Pixies back in the day. We used to love Ash. Like, we're kind of classic 90s kids. So that'd be fun. But also, like, it'd be nice to write music that cuts and like speaks to teenagers and young people now as well, not just like of its time. So people call us an indie band because we have guitars, I presume.
Probably.
But we don't kind of there's no formula to that. We just write songs. And I think a good song will always speak to lots of people.
Definitely. I love that. Classic 90s choices there with Ash. That's awesome. I do remember them when they're big in the chart. Now, I want to finish off this episode by doing a bit of a quick fire round. I need probably a name for it, guys. So if anyone listening in has a name, do email me, lucy@konnectradio.com, because I want to get a proper quiz name for this. But with every band I have on, I give them a bit of a quick fire round of their favourite bands. Okay, so Dan, I'm going to
I think
ask
you should
you.
call this Would You Rather?
Would
That'd be a
you
good name.
rather? I could. I always think of would you rather as in would you rather have
And
feet for hands or hands for feet? That's what I always think of would you rather.
that's true. Yeah, that's isn't it? That's a good point.
But keep coming up with the names. It's great to hear
Yeah,
that. So
I'll
I
ask
have to work on it,
you.
guys.
Okay.
But yeah, see if you can beat Dan's suggestion. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you two bands, and then you have to choose your favorite, and then I'm going to keep going until we find out your favorite indie band. Are you ready, Dan?
Yeah.
Awesome. Here we go. Okay, Oasis or Coldplay? It'll be quick fire.
You know what? Neither. Coldplay.
Coldplay or Razorlight?
Coldplay.
Coldplay or Athlete?
Oh, I liked Athlete. Coldplay.
Coldplay or One Republic?
Oh, Coldplay. I don't even like Coldplay. That's the problem.
Wow, it must be really bad. Okay,
Yeah.
Coldplay or Arctic Monkeys?
Arctic Monkeys.
Yeah, because you toured them. Arctic Monkeys or The Strokes?
Strokes. Definitely Strokes.
Strokes or White Stripes?
Both, but
Oh,
still the Strokes.
okay,
Strokes.
Strokes. You gotta be really quick with this. Okay,
Oh man,
Strokes.
these are good. Yeah.
Okay,
Go on.
Strokes or Death Cab for Cutie?
Strokes.
Strokes or The Kooks?
Strokes. All these
Strokes.
bands copy the Strokes.
They do. That's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a bit of a catch. Okay, The Strokes or Franz Ferdinand?
Still the Strokes.
The Strokes or Block Party?
We played with them. Did we play with them? I like Block Party.
Oh.
Strokes. Still the Strokes.
Okay, Strokes. Okay, sorry, Block Party. Okay, The Strokes or Baby Shambles?
Strokes, definitely.
Okay, the Strokes or the Libertines?
Strokes.
The Strokes or Supergrass?
Strokes.
Strokes or Pulp?
Strokes.
Okay, the Strokes or Arcade Fire?
Arcade Fire.
Oh wow, we've got a new one there, guys. Arcade
Yeah.
Fire or Two Door Cinema Club?
Arcade Fire.
Arcade Fire or The Killers?
Arcade Fire.
Arcade Fire or Kaiser Chiefs?
Okay, definitely Arcade Fire. Don't like the Kaiser Chiefs.
Arcade Fire or Radiohead?
Radiohead.
Well, there we go, new one, guys. Radiohead or The Cure?
Oh, The Cure.
Okay, The Cure or Feeder?
The Cure.
Not a comparison. Okay,
No.
The Cure or the Stereophonics?
Always The Cure.
Okay, The Cure or The Race?
The Cure.
Oh, that was very generous. Well done there. So
Yeah,
your
yeah.
favorite band of all time, well, of indie bands, is The
Yeah.
Cure. I love that. Tell us what you like
Yeah,
about
I
The Cure.
think they're the seminal bands though. So Strokes, like loads of the bands you mentioned were copying Strokes.
True.
And lots of so like U2 are another band that were kind of a root band. And obviously Coldplay came out of them. Loved Radiohead because they were alternative and creative. So I love the bands that kind of start the movements. So I love the Talking Heads as well. So yeah, like the seminal bands. And then we also loved like North American, Canadian indie type stuff. So
Oh,
we love the Arcade Fire, like boy girl vocal, ethereal kind of stuff. And so a lot of the bands you listed that I was a bit dismissive about were the catchy crap bands. without being
catchy
too-
crap bands.
so
The ones
without
that we
being-
play here on Connect Radio. Is that because they're
Oh,
too
really?
commercial kind
Oh,
of thing?
no.
They're too
Well, so
mainstream.
like Kaiser Chiefs, what are they actually writing about? So Ruby, like it's just like, do you know what I mean?
And basically, there's
And
not very much depth to it, is what you're trying to say, yeah?
Franz Ferdinand, like, I say, don't you know? You say you don't know. It's just like, come on, take me out. Like, so again, that's where I think bands like U2 write songs rather than hits, and those songs might become hits because they're brilliant. They're the ones that last. The catchy crap just doesn't last more than 6 months to a year. I mean, it does sometimes, but so
True.
that's the challenge for us to not just. So we wrote a single once called "Rude Boy," which is about a
Rude
young lad I
Boy.
was mentoring at the time in Reading, and
Not
it was all
Rihanna.
about. No, it wasn't about Rihanna. No, it wasn't Rihanna. And it was cool, but it was a single, and it was catchy, and it was great live because it had a disco drum beat. But it's not a song that I'd listen to in the car. You know what I mean? So
Okay.
it's kind of just writing songs, like as opposed to just trying to get someone to dance. And sometimes when you're just a DJ or just playing gigs, you look at the response to the song, and often the song will be led by the drum beat. But like when you're listening to music normally, the drum beat isn't the thing that drives you; it's the lyric and how it feels and all the rest of it.
I love that,
Yeah,
Dan. You're a real man and songwriter of substance there. And I think I see what you mean because you can have hits for days and they maybe have literally no meaning in them or the same word all the time, which some
yeah,
Christian music's like that, isn't it? Let's be honest, like the same line.
yeah.
But actually, you want actual music with substance. So I can tell your taste in music's really good. So that makes sense. Now, Dan, to start off with, we talked about, all your new EP and all your new singles. Could you tell us, for everyone listening in right now, how do we find your EP? How do we download it?
Yeah, so all the streaming places. The EP's not out till October, but the singles are out now. So if you search on Spotify or Apple or wherever else you listen to music for The Race, and the names of the singles, because there's probably, I think we are the main race now, The Race. On the internet, unfortunately, if you search The Race, you'll probably find horse racing.
Really? Or
So
Formula One, maybe.
generally, yeah, the race.rdg is one of our handles. So the race from Reading or race.rdg. So that's a good way to look. But you should find, like on Spotify and places, if you just search The Race, you should find 2 albums and some singles. And I'd say listen back to the albums because they are really beautiful. The first one's called Be Your Alibi. And that was like that was when we recorded in the Radiohead studio, and that was really, really special. And then the second album was called In My Head It Works, and we recorded that with the Manic Street Preachers producer David Ringer, and that was more polished and a bit fuller and a bit more radio kind of sounding, and that was really good too. But it was also the year before we finished, so we didn't get to fully promote that album. But again, there's some really good songs on there that I love, and I've actually gone back to listening to them again because I think
Wow.
sometimes when you leave something, you leave it alone for a while, don't you? So there was probably
Yeah.
several years where I didn't listen to music, and even with Spotify, that was all uploaded after we'd finished in like 2015 or something. So our label did it. So like we had no listens because no one knew we were there or what we were.
Yeah. Makes
So we're
sense.
kind of there's a whole body of work there that people are starting to find and discover now, which is really cool. So yeah, there's some good stuff. So yeah, look online first, and then obviously on YouTube we have the race.rdg, I think is our YouTube
Mhm.
channel.
And you're on
And yeah,
Instagram and Facebook, is that right?
yeah, the race.rdg, yeah, absolutely, yeah, all the usual things. And we're trying to kind of document and do a bit more than just like random stuff. So yes, it's good. It's funny because we're all a bit older now. We're not, as you like tonight, we've got a photo shoot in about 2 hours time. And so like just like what we're gonna wear, what's the colour
It's all
palette,
new.
like all those things. Like we used to have all day every day to think about those things, whereas now it's kind of, can we all be at this place to meet
You
this
got to fit in
photographer?
between the school run or something. Yeah, that's such a
Literally,
different way
and
of
I've
doing
got work
things.
from today to do, yeah. So our days are full, but there are
Wow.
24 hours in a day, and it's cool. And we're really grateful to be able to do it. So it's definitely brought us all a new lease of life and re-energized us. And even just thinking about faith as well, and like how you want to express that faith to the people around you. Yeah, it's really cool. And so we were probably in our 20s, we were really quite earnest and quite zealous, and that's kind of the lyrics. And now probably we're a bit more reflective and a bit more, I don't know, just a different perspective. And that's cool as well. And there's grey, like it's not all black and white, and that's okay to live with grey sometimes. And sometimes you are in the wilderness for several years, and that can be really hard too. But we can sit with people in that place with our music, hopefully. So yeah.
Absolutely, Dan. Well, it's lovely to talk to you and Jess, and I'm excited to see what the results are of that photo shoot and also listening to the EP when it's released in October. Guys, check out The Race on socials, Spotify, and their website, and it's going to be so exciting to see what music they play. Thank you so much, Dan.
Thanks, Lucy.
Awesome.